Hi, everyone. Welcome. We are back with our recap and reaction for episode 5 of Agatha All Along. It's not our normal time, but life was lifing, so we had to rearrange a couple of things. But yeah, we're back to have feelings and thoughts about episode 5, and Nicole is going to start us off with a recap, maybe.
Hello?
Yes.
Everything just froze and glitched out for me.
Yeah, you.
Um,
I don't know if it was me or you, but you
okay,
you did you were looking around confused. We saw that.
okay. Great. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna tweet that this is happening. Um, Talking about Agatha all along. Okay. Really prepared. It's been a couple days, you guys. I'm having a time broadly as a person. So I didn't actually prepare my plot synopsis, but I have seen the episode twice, so I feel like I know what happened. I feel like I know what went down in episode 5, Darkest Hour / Wake Thy Power. So we've had the Salem 7 sort of alluded to up to this point. They were introduced as they were kind of fleeing onto the road, and we begin this episode with some like properly demonic spooky ooky shit. I think it's visions first. Lilia's having visions, but then they like show up properly. It's the Salem 7. They're coming, and now it's time for us to learn who they are. When Agatha killed her coven, she in the WandaVision flashback, when Agatha killed her coven, she left their young children alive, and they became a sort of like hive mind bent on revenge, hundreds of years really committed to vengeance against this one woman. So really like single-minded, driven, also maybe not that good at it at
Yeah,
revenge
that's the
separately.
point.
I feel like at this point you maybe got to find another calling. Um, like it's taken you a minute and you haven't really done your job yet. It's fulfilled your mission. But anyway, so Salem 7 are like spooky yuki demonic people, witches who former children of Agatha's former coven, and they transform into all sorts of animals, and are just broadly spooky and hell-bent on getting Agatha. So they show up. Agatha's like, okay, guys, we got to go. We got to hit the road. We got to start moving, get to the next trial. While they're on their way to the next trial, they're like, we are going way too slow. We got to move. I don't quite follow that because I do feel like the next thing just sort of happens when the road wants it to happen.
Yes.
But they're like, we got to be able to move.
I feel like the idea was more like we got to get off the road, like
We get
abandon
off the
ship.
road.
Yeah,
Okay,
it was more like we got to go, and then
you're
the
right.
road was like, no, we
No, because so they decided they made brooms. It's a little broom making ritual. You make a broom for your friend, and you swap brooms. Very very lovely. And so they all hop on brooms and they start flying. It's a blast. They're like, wow, I love flying so much. And then the road says, no, you will not be flying. And it sort of spins them up. The whole like world kind of turns upside down and shakes them back down to the ground, and the road. So they're back on the road. Salem 7, another member of the Salem 7 appears as a bunch of bees, and they burst through the bees. But a house appears. Like, okay, there's the next trial. Go, 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 run, 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 run. They get into the house and close the door, and it seems like the member of the Salem 7 who is chasing them can't actually get into the house where they are. This house has, every house has had some sort of like TV show nod vibes. I feel like this is our Stranger Things house.
yes.
Uh, Importantly, the aspect ratio didn't change when they went into this house for the first time, which happened on all of the other all of the other trials. What's the significance of that? I don't know. We'll find out. Aspect ratio didn't change, and they quickly realized that this is Agatha's trial because of the moon. It's time to talk to some spirits, and that's not Lilia's domain. She talks to the living. She sees what's going on. Agatha is our spirit, the one to talk to spirits. So a Ouija board appears. Teen reads the rules, which every single one is broken. Like, don't trip over each other. Don't take your hands off
Immediately
the
do not pay
planchette.
attention to the rules.
They are like, fuck this. We're not following the rules. So anyway, Ouija board appears. They're like, okay, we're going to do time to talk to the spirits. And at first, it seems like it's Mrs. Hart is the one talking to them, and then Lilia takes her hands off of the planchette, and Agatha seems to get possessed by Sharon. But then it is very clear that Agatha was just faking. Also, Sharon wouldn't call herself Mrs. Hart. That's not her fucking name, you guys. That clearly Agatha, the only person who still calls her Mrs. Hart. So anyway, Rio is like, they're like, what the fuck, you guys? Like, time is running out. They have little watches as their timers this time. Time is running out. Like, take this shit seriously, please. And Rio's like, Agatha's just scared. So finally, Agatha's like, okay, fuck you. I'll do this. So they do it for real. And it is Death. Who is talking to them is Death. One of the rules was that you're not supposed to ask about Death. So anyway, Death is there. Rio laughs when it says that Death is with them. So
I was like, shut up, stop laughing.
So anyway, they ask the spirit what it wants, and it wants punishment for Agatha. It wants to punish Agatha. Agatha freaks out and is like, I don't want to do this anymore. Stop this. And she like jolts back. But then the whatever like demonic spirits are there are kind of in everybody's heads, like screaming, I think is what's going on. Everybody is having a very bad time. And they're all like, make it stop, telling Agatha to make it stop. She's like, I can't. I don't know what's going on here. And then Jen was like, we know what it wants. It wants us to punish Agatha. And as soon as she says punish Agatha, everything stops. It's like, yeah, thank you.
Spelled it out on the little board and everything.
I thought I was perfectly clear. So the spirit was happy because it was now finally being understood. So anyway, they're like, we got to punish Agatha. And everyone like very immediately gets on board with punishing Agatha. There's no hesitation. There's no questioning really about what that means, except for Teen, who's like, why? What's going on here? What are we doing here? Rio is like, I guess we should slit her throat, probably. And then a ghost appears. And this ghost is Agatha's mom, Evanora Harkness. And now Rio, and the ghost is basically like, listen, the thing that you need to do is, in order to pass this trial, is to just continue on the witch's road without Agatha. Like, leave Agatha behind. That's how I want you to punish Agatha, and like go forth, and you're great. You're good to go. Rio is not okay with this because she's like, no, her mom can't have her. Like, whatever else, fine, we can punish her. It was all fun and games, but leaving her with her mom, absolutely not. So they fight about this. There's like some back and forth. Oh, I skipped Agatha's mom possessing her. But anyway, Agatha's mom possesses her and she's like flying at them. It's a whole thing. Eventually, Alice starts trying to, Agatha's mom like possesses her again, and Alice like blasts her to try to like get her out of, to get Evanora out of Agatha. And when this happens, she succeeds, but then Agatha starts draining Alice, and everyone's freaking out. It's like, oh my God, stop it, stop it, stop it. And Teen goes over to the Ouija board and it spells out Nicholas Scratch. He shouts Nicholas Scratch like right as the timer is ending, and it like Agatha stops draining Alice. It's too late. She's dead. But then she hears like a little boy's voice saying, Mom, stop it. And I mean, kind of feels like that's Agatha being punished also. I don't know. But then a door opens. Some stairs open, and they can go out. And so they go out and they leave, or Agatha leaves first. Everybody still in the room is like, Teen's like begging them to try to save Alice, and they're like, it's gone. It's too late. There's nothing we can do here. So Teen goes after Agatha, who's already left, and is like, what the fuck is wrong with you? She was trying to help you. Why didn't you stop? Agatha insists that she didn't know how, that she couldn't stop. She couldn't stop herself from draining him. And they're like bickering, and not Rio, but Jen and Lilia both come out and are like, they don't seem like eager to proceed, but they are like, I don't know, man, that's death. That's the road. We just got to keep it pushing. Has always actually, Jen is like, this has actually always been about power for all of us. So whatever. And they are going, and Tina's like, this is sick. This sucks. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm not like this, like power for your own ends is like not, I don't approve of this, basically. And Agatha, who has been sort of distressed up to this moment, has this little, like, there's like a face change. There's like a click for her in this moment. And she whispers in his ear, "You sure about that?" And tells him that he's so much like his mother before turning and walking away. And then Teen gets little blue sparklies. He gets little blue sparklies in his hands. And then Lilia and Jen get blue glowy eyes, and they grab Agatha and they throw her into the road. The road is like quicksand or something. I don't know. They throw her into the road with their bright blue eyes, and then they follow her into the road with their bright blue eyes. And then Teen has like a little tiara that's kind of like Wanda's little tiara. And then they play Billie Eilish's "You Should See Me in the Crowd." I feel it was a beat too far, but that's the end of the episode. I did it. I don't know. Not my finest work, but that is.
No, you did great. Remember, I feel like, it was a short episode and you watched it twice, so you did good. Now the question is, did you like it?
I continue to just really like broadly enjoy this show. I like this show a lot. So yes, I think I'm sad that this episode needed to be longer. I feel they all need to be longer. They all need to be longer. They really truly all need to be longer. But I also feel like this episode was clearly a sort of like setup for, like, there's a setup payoff that is happening here. So I feel like it is hard to judge without knowing what the payoff is, right?
Yes.
Like, it's like the if you made this episode any longer, you would have to add additional information and additional details that are clearly being intentionally withheld at this moment. So until we know like what the other side of that is, I'm like, okay. Really, truly, my biggest note about the episode is I really wish they would have just used like regular show music and not that fucking Billie Eilish song. It made that moment so corny.
All of my like notes about like questions and discussion topics for this episode are actually questions of like, is it this? So to like your point about this being a setup and we have to see, like, wait for the payoff, I feel that. But I think I've been saying since like our first live that my big complaint is that these episodes should be longer.
Yeah.
And this is the shortest one yet. It honestly felt personal that every week.
Oh, you're not satisfied with the length of our episodes? Well, now you get less. You get less.
You get 25 minutes or whatever it was. And I was like, are you kidding?
Shut up and take it.
Like, this is like a sitcom length of an episode.
Yes, it was too short.
Too short. And even if I do agree that there are like answers that we can't get yet, I think it's going to be interesting to look back when we have everything to understand what was answered and what is left open and what is like narratively unsatisfying. Because I really like the show, and again, that's probably not going to change. But I am feeling like I don't know, like every time you do this to me, the payoff has to be that good,
Yeah.
that much better, that much well delivered to like have this feel tight and like worth it.
Right.
So it is like every episode I'm kind of like, okay, but like you better do the damn thing. And that's kind of how this one left me feeling, especially because I don't know, the implication is that this was Agatha's trial. And like I want and I'm like, is I don't know, was it?
There are so many things about this trial that were weird and were not, and like did not follow
No.
the
Like
what
the
we had seen,
pattern.
the pattern. Yeah,
Yes.
in such a way that I'm like, okay, this is not, I feel it can't be what it seems.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, there's a couple different ways that for it to not be quite what it seems, but something is like off. Something is off.
And I think I want to believe that it is like purposefully that the like writers did this to us, especially because like at the end of our last live when we forced ourselves to do predictions, right? We're like, well, clearly it's Patty LuPone's episode
Yes,
next, right? Like they
we
set
were
us
so
into
confident.
right. There is a pattern, right? There was like a pattern they were following, and they set this whole you get to the door, it has a phase of the moon, like you walk,
Hmm,
like
hmm.
there's a whole sort of thing. And this doesn't follow. So I don't know. That I guess it's the big question of either this there's more to this trial that we haven't seen yet. It wasn't really Agatha's trial, or it was. And then in that case, I just don't I think that it was over too quick. I
Yeah,
don't think that it like really actually delivered enough trial to
yeah, yeah,
Agatha.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it was just
Yes,
a little too fast and a little too neat.
yes, yeah. Yeah, it definitely feels like only half of an episode.
Mhm.
Uh, in the broader, sort of scheme of the show. I don't know. I remain hopeful we'll get the rest of it. Is like thinking about our predictions. We were like, it'll definitely be Patty LuPone's trial next. And also, we're probably not going to like there's still more to learn about Patty LuPone and Jen too. But Alice's story pretty much done. With they told
Yeah.
Alice's story. Like there are a bunch of little things from that I was like, huh. Okay.
Um,
And so I don't know, like all of that felt rooted in, we were just making what felt like obvious observations. Like
yes.
we weren't really making like big bold
Predictions.
predictions. We
No.
were just like, okay, so here's where we're at. We've been doing this. It means we're going to do this. And so I don't know. I will be really upset if it turns out this was not like a purposeful upending and like sort of of those expectations. But I feel like I remain really optimistic that there is
Yes.
something, that there's
I think
more.
especially so because of the way that they've been doing like the teen boy slash probably I don't know confirmed
Wiccan.
Billy at this point,
Yeah.
sort of thing where they have been leading us like in a very I don't want to say obvious because I feel like that's like it has a negative connotation to talk about sort of like obvious storytelling, but I mean that like complementary to this story, that it has like faked us out in a few ways but
Yeah.
also like been very clear about like all of the pieces that it was laying out, in a way that I feel is satisfying and like really crown you should see me in a crown notwithstanding like, that moment was like this is the thing we were thinking is the thing
Yes.
that so I want to
Visually, literally, everything else. The only reason I'm like disgruntled about it is because I felt like it was so good otherwise that I'm just like, why? Why should anyway? Continue.
yeah.
Sorry.
No, I get it. But yeah, so like the same people who gave us like that progression of stuff, like I'm relying on them to also be
Yeah.
very mindful about what it's feeding out to us and what is feeling obvious to us, and like very carefully leading us through the narrative about what comes next. My only
Mhm.
question is if they have enough space to do what they
Yeah.
are doing, because it is ambitious in some ways. And we have an ensemble cast is really the thing, right? Is that you have so many different like little pocket stories to tell, and just like, I don't know, giving all of that enough room.
Yes. Yeah. Um yeah, it's interesting, like this being the episode 5, or we're halfway through the season in the chat, the reveal midway through the show, because now they have to actually do some stuff with him versus like the whole thing being uh reveal, like letting that be kind of the end, like, aha, this is who he is.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so now, like, now what? We know who, we see who he is, we see that he's clearly got more power and knowledge than he has previously let on. Like there's some degree to which this is like an act. So like what's going on here? What's the, like, what do you do with this information now that it's there? It's honestly a little bit of like a callback to the Agatha reveal, to the Agatha all along
Yes.
moment, in a sense. Yes. What will is there even going to be a trial? Yes.
Yes.
I don't know, man.
And I think that in like tying all of this, like, these questions that now we have, like, episode 5, to what I was just saying about like sort of like obvious storytelling, like this is a really neat way to like cap that, because had they gone on for what, I don't know how long the season is,
9 episodes.
so 4 more episodes, like with us kind of like knowing that it's Billy and like dropping hints or whatever, it can reach a point where it's like, all right,
All right.
like, all right
Yeah.
already. But
Yeah.
like doing it here in a way, confirming things here for us, I think leaves it still satisfying, while also opening, like we felt like we knew what was happening, but now we're like,
Mhm.
wait, what comes next? Which is like a really neat way to like leave your audience questioning things without it being something like sort of out of left field, or like being bamboozled for the sake of
Mhm.
it, right? That
Mhm.
that feels smart to me.
Yeah. Yes. This is a pet complaint of both of ours, is the essentially like shock, twists for their own sake, shock value for its own sake. Like, gotcha. Well, you got me because you didn't fucking set anything up. Like, what do you mean you got me?
You
I
got
like,
me, it doesn't make
it
sense.
doesn't make any sense, right? Which yeah, that's like, I feel like um yeah, I'm I don't know, man. I don't like I feel more uh unmoored after that episode than I have over like before. I was like, okay, we're doing this thing, and then we had the couple trial episodes, so I was like, okay, I get what's happening, we're going on the road, we're gonna do our little trials, and now the show's like, no.
Yeah.
Something else is happening.
I think the unmoored feeling as well, like I think part of it is we have this character Agatha, right? And like we saw a whole season of television where she was the villain, right? And
Mhm.
now she's the main character. And I feel like there's like not a clear sense for us yet, of her motivations, and like
Mhm.
who she really is, and
Mhm.
how villainous she actually is. And this is an episode that, I mean, we've been seeing that throughout, but in this episode alone, we got like several like switches to me.
Uh-huh.
And then I was like, oh, Agatha. Oh, and like one of my questions is like, did Agatha kill Alice on purpose? Like, how much of her power is like sort of beyond her will, or like, I don't know,
Yes.
uh and it is a good question that we don't have an answer to. I think it's funny too. You mentioned like the Agatha all along tie to like the Billy reveal or
Yeah.
whatnot, and the thing that we get recapped before this episode actually is from WandaVision. It's her backstory of her being burned at the stake, and like the coven surrounding her, and they're about to kill her, and she just absorbs all their power and kills all of them in return.
Mhm.
So that's a moment that comes back, obviously, with her mom, but also we see Rio defending Agatha. Again, someone who does a lot of switching. She's like, slit her throat, but not, no, mom, you can't have her.
Uh-huh.
So like
Uh-huh.
the protectiveness versus the killer instinct there as well. But one thing she says is that like Agatha's mom tried to kill her. Like she was
Yes.
defending herself in that moment. So I don't know. It raises these questions of like how much of what Agatha is doing is like power hungry, because we see that, versus like instinctual, because it seems
Yes.
that way as well.
Yes. Yeah. The big question of like whether was it on purpose? I don't know. Yeah. I feel like I just in like watching the way that that final scene played out, like I don't know, everything about her, it's it's tricky because this is a character who is so like openly manipulative, and that like any sort of sense of what is projected, you always have to kind of like question it, have to question what she's saying and what is being put out there. It did feel like to me, it was not intentional. Like fully draining Alice was not intentional. That everything about her reaction seemed like she seemed also mystified
Yeah.
by what was going on there. Seemed a little bit sort of perplexed by it. Not unhappy to have the power.
Yeah. It was just like,
I'm
well, now
not saying
that
she's
I got
like a
it.
goody, but like maybe there's like slightly more going on with the baddie, and ultimately that sort of like the final turn that she takes into going into back to being like, I'm, bad bitch Agatha or whatever, uh is like, it's not even about that. It's like it's like processing teen,
Yeah.
and like looking at him, and she's like, oh, okay, I figured something else out here. So I don't know, I my sense right now, we're guessing. I feel like this is a question that will be definitively answered probably by the end of the season. This should be a question that is definitively answered by the end of the season, is whether or not it's on purpose. Like how much intentionality does Agatha have in the draining? Like they've now set this question up. They've now introduced this as like an actual as a question, something that was previously taken for granted. Like in WandaVision, there is no implication whatsoever that it is anything but deliberate, that Agatha is draining people of their power. This show has introduced a question that maybe Agatha isn't doing it on purpose, or maybe she can't control it, or whatever. That maybe there's nuance there.
Mhm.
My hunch is that they have introduced it because there is actually nuance there. It would be, I'm not saying that has to be the answer. I think that there are still ways that you can make it satisfying, that that's like an act that she puts on, whatever. Like there's other explanations there, but that's the prediction corner that I'm I'll
My prediction for this is also that like there is some, perhaps some degree that she could fight it, maybe, but it
Mhm.
would be like a very like taxing, like, it's not like an on off switch or whatever. It
Yeah.
is more instinctual. I think that apart from like her being a witch in the Salem era, where witches, like any sort of magic, would be like looked upon, I feel like there's a way that like the relationship with her mother, where her mother is like, you're evil, like that, to have like an instinctual like power draining power would that you would look at your child and go, what the hell,
Yes.
that would be a thing that that would set up that relationship. Could it be something else also? Yes, but I feel like where it would make me happy more than a prediction, this is what would make me
What
happy,
I would personally find most satisfying, what I
is
want.
that it is something that is instinctual and like very very difficult for her to like fight or snap out of, right? She did ultimately snap out of it when he said Nicholas Scratch, right? Like there was that
Right.
moment that she, like, whatever she was in, she was able to break out of. But I don't entirely feel like it's always super optional for her, that like,
Yeah.
it is a thing that is triggered when she starts absorbing anybody else's power.
Yes. That's the vibe I got too.
Okay. So last week we talked about generational.
Mm. Generational curses, yeah.
Uh, the whole thing with Alice last week, and the reason that her story was complete and now she is dead, is that she learned that she had a super protective mother. That like
Mhm.
the song, the ballad, the entire thing was that her mother was like protecting her, like, and doing what she could to get that protection sort of mass distributed. And this week we have almost like the opposite end of that, back into like mommy issues, and like, I don't know, that whole sort of her mom wanted to kill her or whatnot. Any other thoughts about like that dynamic, or about the trial, the hunting, the ghost, Rio, and all of that?
You know, free um, um, No, I don't know. I like it is interesting that this episode had all the big mommy issue stuff, and
Yes.
then the reveal was tied to, like, the setup of episode being Agatha's mommy issues, and then the sort of light bulb moment for Agatha of like, "Oh, you're so much like your mother." Like, I don't know, there's mommy issues is a a theme throughout. I don't know that I don't have anything anything more to say than that, though.
It does feel like it's a light bulb moment there, but it also makes me, I don't know, I hearing you talk about the light bulb moment and having her shift in her demeanor, I was like, oh yeah, sure. But really in that moment, I was like, how long has she known?
Oh, sure.
Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
how long has she, I think to me more, it was like, instead of being like a light bulb moment, it was more like, not you preaching at me about like, it was more like that kind of, you can't say this because I know who you are and why you're here kind of thing.
I guess to me, when I say light bulb moment, I don't mean like all of the pieces finally. To me, I do feel like that was a confirmation. I
Yeah,
guess not. So I'm not saying like a on off switch. I also don't think that she definitively knew before that moment. Like I think I don't know, the conversation with Rio the previous week makes it pretty clear that like that she considered the possibility that it was her son, like that
yeah,
was like an idea she was entertaining. Like she knew that there was something else going on here.
yes,
I mean that's like from go. He has this sigil on him that's fucking weird. Like what's I don't know. Like that is like the reason she kept him around in the first place, is this sense of like I don't know what is happening there, but this is interesting.
yeah,
And Agatha is very much like a do it for the plot kind of person. So she's just like, sure. But like yeah, I don't know. So I think how long has she known? I don't get the sense that she has known definitively
yeah,
before that moment. Obviously, like there's the scene we talked about this when Sharon dies. That the when Sharon when Agatha, like that episode begins with Agatha like looking over the body and she's like, I didn't think you had it in you. And Teen's like, what do you mean? And she winks at him and that's it. So that also was on the list of things that is like unanswered, but is clearly, I think, part of this thread here,
yeah,
where we still don't have like a clear explanation for what that moment was about exactly. But right now the implication kind of seems to be that Billy intentionally killed Sharon.
mhm,
Um, so you know,
yes.
we'll
Question
see.
marks all around, I think Billy and Agatha especially on both of, I mean, we talked about Agatha, like, not what's her motivation, what Billy is also like a huge question mark,
Mm,
and like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
why he's here, what his intention is, how much he is manipulating sort of the like goings on around him, or thinks he is to any sort of degree. So what's and he is obviously putting on some sort of act as well, in like the way
Yes.
that he's like fawning over Agatha and like, this whole thing. So like how much, we don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's really fun too, because I'm curious to see what his end game is here.
Yes, yes. Very yeah, yeah. Very curious like what his like broader motivation. I mean, at this point we don't like we still don't really 100% know what um I shouldn't say anyone's motivations are on the road. Alice had the clearest. That's the thing. Alice kind of tied up. Hate to see her go, but I do feel like a clear bow was put upon that. I understood what she wanted. She got a resolution. I
And
don't know.
now rip.
Now rip. Jen, I guess I have. I mean, she wants to be unbound. So Jen, I understand like what she is after. Patty LuPone though, I really have no fucking clue what she like what she's after, like what her deal is. Rio still very confusing. Also like what's the end game, that what's going on there. Alice's like actual like she wants her power back, I guess, or sorry, Agatha's actual like brought like there's clearly something more going on there about being on the road for her that is like not super clear. But Billy most of all, what's going on there? Why are you there? What is your objective? He clearly has the fact that he undid Wanda's spell in the very beginning of the show is actually like from go, this kid is clearly quite powerful.
Yes. Yeah.
Granted, Wanda's dead at the time that he does this, so I don't know, maybe that's like the magic is weaker and whatever, but like the show actually did tell us from the beginning that he is more powerful than he has been letting on up to this moment by virtue of that, right?
Yeah.
Uh I don't know.
Um, Alice being dead. Also, we were talking, and I feel like we very hilariously had so many feelings when Sharon died, and we were like, maybe she'll come back. And now Alice is dead, and like
I'm like, oh.
maybe this show just is like not afraid to go there with its like
Yeah.
life and death stakes or whatnot. I really felt like when Sharon died, I was like, no, no, they're not gonna kill. Now that we have two dead, though, I'm like, oh,
Oh,
all
okay.
right.
All right. We're killing witches. We're
Yeah.
killing witches on the show. These actors said, "You're not trapping me in the next 20 years of my life." Uh, one and done. Patty
Um,
LuPone has told everyone who will listen that she has not and will not watch another Marvel product. Marvel. So I don't think while we're on the people are dying, Patty LuPone's going to die. Patty LuPone's not going to see the end of the road. I feel like if we're killing people, she's like the most obvious one to actually kill. How I don't know, but I don't know. I feel like
I want
I
her
don't.
to
Patty
live.
LuPone's never coming back,
No,
so
I
you might
want
as
her
well
to
kill the
live, and I
character.
want her to make random cameos in Marvel properties for here until the
I
rest of
would love. I would love her to be the new Stan Lee.
standing. I collect that paycheck every time and just like pop up and like Mark. Yeah, I feel like that's the right answer. We'll see. I don't know. We'll see. Uh, will all of the coven be dead by the end of this? Which is the other thing that I'm thinking is
Oh
like maybe
man,
it's just like Billy, Death, and Agatha at the end of the
the
road.
end of the
And like,
road.
yeah, which is sad. Other thoughts from the chat. Episode feels a bit unsatisfying because the agenda and setting remain the same, yet a lot did happen throughout. I love the show, but I feel weird, disappointed when the episode ends.
Yes.
And then agree. I love the show for what it is, a cute, spooky show to watch each week, but I think each episode, except the first, is unsatisfying in some way. My favorite trial is still Jen's. Yeah, I think that like again, it just is building to this point where like, okay, well, the ending's gonna have to like really stick the landing
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
like make all of these bits that we're walking away from each episode going, what the heck, feel satisfying. And I think especially because we're watching it weekly, right? If this
Mm-hmm.
was a show you could binge, I mean, it would end up feeling like one large thing, right? And
Yes.
not having this like, okay, now I gotta sit for a week after having only this like 25-minute episode or whatnot, and like not have the satisfaction of an answer, which I'm not saying is good or bad,
Yeah.
but it just kind of feeds into that, like at the end of every episode being like,
This episode, one of the reasons that this episode in particular stands out for that though is that I think that the first 4 episodes did feel like they had a clear arc. Like one of the things that we have talked about a lot lately is the ways in which some of the streaming shows, the big dumps, wind up just feeling like a 10-hour movie that you inserted artificial cut points into.
Yeah.
Whereas again, it's very, very, just as in WandaVision, it's very, very clear that the show is made by people who love TV,
Mhm.
and like at their core, people with just like a lot of love and respect for television, and like every episode, the first 4 episodes really did feel like contained mini units. Like it didn't feel like we were creating a 10-hour movie with random cut points inserted. It felt like you have 10 discrete chapters
Yeah.
within that story, that in each chapter has to have its own beginning and middle and end. And this one, it's not that this one didn't have a beginning, like a clear beginning, middle, and end. It still did. It still did. It still like functioned as a unit, but like definitely less satisfyingly so than the
Yes.
previous 4 have.
Yeah. Um, we mentioned early on about the Stranger Things 80s sleepover
Mm.
aesthetic
Mhm,
of
mhm,
it
mhm.
all. Not sure if you have any other thoughts about, like, we always check in with the look and feel, the
Yeah,
editing.
well, okay, I do I have one sort of like to the circling back on this isn't done yet, like, this is not actually like, we're not there. We didn't get a clear explanation for why that was the only thing that indicated that this was Agatha's trial was the moon. There was no the others all had like, the setting had a meaning that was intelligible to like, we understood. Jen's
Mhm,
trial was in this is her customers that she fucking hates. Now
mhm,
she's in their dream McMansion. Like that was that setting. Alice's trial, this is like a recording studio that her mother could have been. The house I think looked familiar to her when they were approaching it.
yeah,
So I'm like blanking on details there, but out like Alice, the setting that in Alice's trial and Jen's trial were both indicated by the setting as much as they were by the events of the trial, in a way that this had no. I mean, the setting we have a setting. It has like a clear and distinct setting from all the others, but there's no explanation as to why the 80s. Why the fuck is Agatha's trial in this like 80s sleepover vibe?
yeah.
Again, also the aspect ratio didn't change. I feel like that is like a really major like sticking point. I think the actual sigil spell was put on Patty LaPone. I don't think any of us actually I said
You
Lillian.
did, Ilya. You did, and I went Patty LaPone. You were using her real name, and I was like, yeah, Patty LaPone.
Did very briefly attempt to not to call her by her character's name. I mean, I agree, it's just Patty LaPone, but
Yeah. Yeah, the 80s, like why the
sorry,
80s,
yeah.
but I hope that there's actually a better explanation, because one of the things that left me like kind of like, oh, that's stupid, was, I mean, the only sort of connection that I see right now is the whole like Ouija board sleepover sort of thing. Like there is a way that that connects aesthetically, that it feels more superficial to like the
Yes.
others, like connections that we've gotten. And there's a line to like, they're obviously like, I don't know, sort of like meta humor. Agatha's like, Mom, you're embarrassing me in front of my friends, which is like very like 80s sleepover, like,
Yeah,
teen
yeah, yeah.
sort of thing. So they were like superficial connections that I was like, nah, this
This
can't
can't
be
be it.
all.
This can't be y'all. This can't be it. I feel like going like wilder like theory prediction corner, I feel like this trial was a construction of either the seven or Billy. I don't know
Yeah.
whomst is responsible for constructing this, but not I don't feel like it was the road. Um or my other like cracked out theory here is that it was the road, but it was not time yet. That it was like out of order. That they because of all of the wibbly wobbly whatever that was happening in the run up to them going to that house, that they somehow wound up not they reached it not when they were supposed to at the wrong time. I don't really know whatever. I don't know. The road is just the road. Like I don't really understand the magic of it. I don't really feel like I need to either. I'm good. I'm good with the level of like world of like magic system building that we're getting here. This to me is perfectly sufficient. I don't actually need a detailed explanation of how the road works.
Okay, I'm gonna go back on like everything I said this whole episode about how this episode was too short. To say it was actually, thank God it was so short, because this is one that leaned further from like the spooky into like the demonic, which is like
Yes.
my thing that I like. I don't like horror at all, but specifically, I don't like demons and like demon possession or like any of that. I cannot do it. And so this episode, I was like, as soon as the Ouija board came out, I was like, oh hell. Like,
I messaged her when I was watching it. I was like, you gotta know this is like I know I've been telling you previously about Spooky Yuki, but like this one is demons. This one is actually your kryptonite.
I did not enjoy it. There were a lot of things that I was like grateful that the screen was a little dark because I couldn't see it all the way. It was like, yeah, whatever is happening over there, I don't need to know.
None of my business.
None of my business. I love this theory, Nicole, because the trial just felt so unfinished at a gate. Even with the way the house appeared whilst they were running from the seven, I would love it being made by Billy or the seven.
Mm-hmm.
Manipulated. I also like the out of order sort of thing. Like the road was like, oh, I was still working on that.
I wasn't done yet.
RSVP not yet.
Quick, throw some decorations up. Fuck, I didn't pick the wardrobe yet. Like it was supposed to be like a much older. It was supposed to be like 1780s, and they were like, "Fuck, wrong 80."
God damn it! I hate when that happens. It's so embarrassing. I love that. This is my new carrying the body across state lines theory. Is it the road? Carrying Vision's body across state lines is our WandaVision pet theory.
Wow, what a throwback. What a throwback.
All right. Anything else about this episode you didn't get to talk about?
I mean, I feel like it's wild because this was such a short episode and we've complained repeatedly about how short this episode was. But I also feel like I could talk about this episode for another hour, like because of all the questions that it introduced. I have so many questions about what's coming. The other thing that I did kind of want to talk about in terms of questions about what's coming is Billy's endgame. We talked about this. We sort of introduced it. What do you getting to the end of the episode, crazy prediction corner, what do you think Billy's endgame is?
I feel like the obvious kind of answer is something about power, right? Him seeking power, wanting power, but it's very clear to me that he is powerful. I feel like that is not like a problem for him.
Mm-hmm.
So if the road, he reminds us several times that the road kind of gives you the thing that you want or need the most.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be tied to Wanda until to me to like bringing Wanda back or some version of like, I don't know, something mommy issues.
Mm-hmm.
Seems to be like the big tie. Yeah, that would be my guess. Secondary guess, this is all about punishing Agatha. This is all about, bringing Agatha to her sort of like eventual demise, or I don't know, seeking something from Agatha, answers or something. It's really less about the road and more about Agatha, but I like that one less.
Yeah, especially because at this point we don't really have a clear sense of why Billy would be committed to punishing Agatha. Like the broader sort of thing with Agatha isn't the villain of WandaVision. Like that, ultimately Wanda is both hero and villain of her own show. That's like the thing that's going on there, right? The villains, honestly, and as far as like external villains, it's the government is, I think, probably the bigger villain in WandaVision. Like Agatha is more just like a fun antagonist.
Yes, sure.
And like in the end, Wanda's punishment of Agatha is less from a place of needing retribution than it is, I am an Avenger and you are a bad guy, and so I have to, it's the cop logic of the MCU, basically. Yeah. I have to lock up a bad guy because I am an Avenger. So boop, okay. And like that's what's going on there. So like there's no real, I don't know, familial legacy reason, I think, for Billy to be like, we got to get Agatha. I think Wanda makes the most sense, is the most obvious, or I think Wanda is the most obvious. I think my other thing is that maybe it's his brother. Like we don't know, like we have no context at this point for what he has and doesn't have, like what is his life up to this point,
and doesn't
what
know,
he knows and doesn't know. All of that is up in the air. So my other theory is that, because we've been talking for a minute now about like them sort of setting up young Avengers. So maybe whatever is going on, he knows he has a twin brother somewhere and is on the road in search of his twin brother.
Yeah.
That's my other theory.
Yeah, I think I don't know. There is, yeah. The question of what he knows and what he remembers is like interesting, right? Because as much as there's like no like you're right about like not really needing to punish Agatha per se or whatnot, but there it cannot be a coincidence that he finds Agatha, right? Or like that. I mean, it can. I don't know. There's like some the if his whole thing is access to the road, why Agatha? Like there's
Well,
certainly
because she's been on it before, allegedly. I'm still confused about that, but she's allegedly been on the road before,
yeah.
and is
I
like
mean,
crazy powerful.
not anymore. She has no powers. I don't know. It feels like to me that that isn't sufficient reason for. There has to be something else, some other reason that like
Hmm.
Agatha would want to be there because surely there are other witches who have been on the road, but
Yeah.
specifically like finding Agatha is either a purposeful choice on his behalf or he doesn't know or realize or like there's some magical sort of like thing that's happening there. My point
Hmm.
is that I feel like whatever Billy has going on, Agatha has to tie to it in some way.
In some way.
Yeah.
Interesting. White Vision. Oh, maybe he's looking for his dad.
I also forgot about White Vision.
He's out there somewhere, man. Really incredible. That a job in his pajamas. Spent years just rolling up to a recording studio in his pajamas, and then they said, "No, man, you're gonna sit in 12 hours of makeup." Wait a minute, what? It's very what happened to the original plot?
Out of the movie. I used to just be a voice.
Yeah. Anyway,
Cool.
okay,
I feel like
great.
we did it. I'm
Yeah,
super excited to have some answers
yeah.
eventually.
Please, please
Please,
tell
may I
me.
have an answer as a treat?
Uh,
We shall see next week. Regular time and day, Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern, hopefully. But if not, we'll put the little notice again on the channel. So
oh yeah,
we
we need another. We haven't gotten a song. Oh, the song. That's also I think what really made this episode feel too short. We didn't sing. I
yes.
feel like that really would have. I feel like if you'd introduced a song, I think you really could have. You could have gotten another 3 minutes of episode in there, and that 3 minutes would have gone a long way.
To making me feel satisfied. That episode was just long enough.
What a great episode.
More singing makes everything better. You have Patty LuPone. Let that
Come on. Make her sing.
All right.
Great.
We'll see you guys next week. Bye.